Toma bina ke doyalu jagata samsare Toma bina jagata Odita pavana hetu Tapa avatara Tapa avatara Odita pavana hetu Tapa avatara Shamapatita Prabhu na paibe Moshamapatita na paibe Moshamapatita Prabhu na paibe Guru Sitapati Advaita Goswami Advaita Goswami Doya Guru Sitapati Advaita Goswami Advaita Goswami Tava Kripa Bole Pai Chaitanya Nitai Tava Kripa Bole Pai Chaitanya Nitai Tava Kripa Bole Pai Chaitanya Nitai Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Shaki Prabhu Mahaprabhu Nityananda Premananda Shaki Premananda Shaki Kripa Koro Kona Koro Ami Koro Dugi Ami Bodo Dugi Kripa Koro Kana Koro Ami Bodo Dugi Ami Bodo Dugi Aha Sharup Shanatana Rupa Raghunata Rupa Raghunata Bhata Juga Sri Jivaha Prabhu Lokanata Acharya Prabhu Srinivas Daya Kodam Daya Kodam Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas Daya Kodam Shangamage Narottama Das Ramachandra Narottama Ramachandra Shangamage Narottama Das Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivas Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Gaura Hare Jai Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga. Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hari. Jai Sachinandan, Jai Sachinandan. Jai Sachinandan, Gaura Hari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, go to Hari Bol. Go to Premanande. The Srivas Angan, Mahaprabhu performed his Kirtan Leela here, Srivas Angan. Many pastimes, particularly Madhya Leela, Mahaprabhu, Sankirtan, Aishwarjapurna, Mahaprakash, all of this. There's hours and hours of discussion we could have on Srivas Angan. Tonight we will discuss the Vishwarup Sannyas. Here we went on parikrama to Advaita Bhavan. We saw Arati, Advaita Acharya. Was deities installed by Sanatana Saraswati Thakur. Was deities installed by Sanatana Saraswati Thakur. Advaita Thakur praying, Mahaprabhu giving blessings, special, unique deities here. Advaita Bhavan. We did the kirtan, saw the arti. And then beside that is Gaura Garadha Bhavan. And here Srivas Thakur lived with 4 brothers, Srivas, Sriram, Srinidhi, Shriman. And they were performing Sankirtan even before Mahaprabhu had inaugurated the Sankirtan movement. The Sankirtan going on here, Advaita Thakur, Haridas Thakur. We visited Advaita Bhavan, the Arti, where we saw Arti. Now, Advaita Acharya, he's senior Vaishnav, Advaita Acharya. He has beard, long white beard. Had beard. Why? Because he's actually the age of Dvijamani, his grandfather age. The father of Jagannath Mishra, Advaita Thakur. He's the aged, the senior most Vaishnav. It's like here in Vaishnav culture, the more aged a senior sannyasi, the more aged they become, the more senior they become. Very senior. In ISKCON we have very senior sannyasis, aged men. They're most respected. They're the most senior most members of our movement, the aged men. So like that, Advaita Acharya, he was so much respected. Every day he would have Shammilon in this place, he would have Gita Shammelan. The Vaishnavas would come, they would discuss Bhagavad Gita. And Advaita Acharya would teach Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti. This is because in Navadip there are so many scholars. Navadipe, Chaturdik hoite log Navadipe jai, Navadipe porile she bidda rosh pai. Scholars came from all over India to study in Navadip because Navadipe porile she bidda rosh pai. You get a taste for learning in Navadip, bidda rosh. So there was all sorts of scholars, Nyaya, Vyakaran, the Shankarites, the Vedanti, the Smaritas, all sorts of scholars. But here, Advaita Acharya, he would have discussion on bhakti, Bhagavad Bhakti, as is described in Bhagavad Gita. And every day, Vishwarup would come. Vishwarup wasn't so much interested in Prabhupada Agraja Vishwarupa. Can you hear me okay? Okay? This is about that. Prabhupada Agraja Vishwarup Bhagwan Ajanma Bidokta Sharbagune Nidhan. Ajanma Bidokta means from birth. From birth he was detached. He would not talk about family life, things in the household, mundane. He would go to Ganga and then come back and worship the deity of Jagannath Mishra, Shalagram Shila, Brahmins, Mishras. And then after that, he wouldn't hang around the house. He would come here. Shabane Badane Mone, Shabendriya Gone, Krishna Bhakti Bina, Aro, Na Bole Na Shune. He was Shabane, hearing, Mone, thinking, Badane, speaking. Sabendriya Gone, with all his senses, Krishna Bhakti Bine. Apart from Krishna consciousness, he didn't utilize his senses in anything. We were hearing last night about the Brahmin that only ate the Mahaprasadam of his deity. This is Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Rishikena Shevanam, using the senses to the master of the senses. And pure bhakti, or Ananda Bhakti, when we talk about person of pure bhakta, it means that their senses are only used exclusively for Krishna's satisfaction. That's pure bhakti. The senses are exclusively used for Krishna's satisfaction. How's that done? By only speaking about Krishna, only hearing about Krishna, only taking Krishna Prasad, seeing the deity of the Lord, going to the temple. That's pure bhakti. The senses are completely, and simply by practicing that, we can attain the spiritual world. We practice that, use our senses to serve Krishna only, and then eventually the senses become, the pure spiritual nature of the senses becomes revived by practice, becomes awakened. Nirabadi take Sharva Vaishnava Shange Krishna Kota, Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Puja Range. Nirabadi, all the time. Sarva Vaishnava Shange, all the time with Vaishnavas. Krishna Kata, speaking about Krishna. Krishna Bhakti, worshipping Krishna. Krishna Puja Range. Jagat Pramata. Jagat Pramata. means the materialistic people. Jagat Pramata. Dan Putra Vidrashe. Vaishnav Dekele Matra Shabai Upahashe. When they would see the Vaishnavas, they would make jokes about them. The Jagat Pramata. But the Jagat Pramata people, what are they? Means mad. Jagat mad about the material world. Dan Putra Vidrash. Even the materialistic people in Navadip are elevated compared to now. They're bewildered by wealth, sons, and learning. Learning. Vidya. The materialistic people. This is a criticism. They're absorbed in learning. Vedas, Sanskrit, materialistic people. That's how elevated the residents of Navadip were. That even the materialists were attached to learning. And actually they would make fun of the Vaishnavas by writing poetry. Nowadays people just curse and swear and throw rubbish. But the materialistic people would write poems ridiculing the Vaishnavas. It just shows you how aristocratic and how learned and how elevated the society, the people were. The materialists would write poems insulting the Vaishnavas. A motto, bole, Krishna Bhakti Shunna Jane. In this way, the Krishna Bhakti Shunna Jan, the people without devotion to Krishna would laugh and make fun of the Vaishnavas. Shuni Mahadukha Pai Bhagavad Gane. So Mahadukha Pai Bhagavad Gane, the devotees would feel Mahadukha when they would hear the non-devotees speak. Dukkha Boro Pai Vishwarup Bhagavan. The devotees felt great pain because the materialists were not engaged in devotional service, not serving Krishna. But Dukkha Boro Pai, even more pain was felt by Vishwarup. Nashuni Abhishta Krishna Chandrer Akyan. Because he wasn't hearing the glorification of Abhishta Krishna Chandra, his worshipable Lord Krishna. Because he wasn't hearing the glorification of Lord Krishna. It was very painful for him. So in this way, Vishwarup was thinking that he's thinking that he'd just go to the forest. It's so painful for him, go to the forest. Ushakale Vishwarup Kore Ganga Shnan Advaita Shabai Ashihoy Upashtan. In the morning, take his bath in the Ganga, then he'd come here to Advaita Thakur's house. Advaita Acharya, when he would see Vishwarup arrive, he would stop worshipping. Advaita Acharya would stop worshipping the deity and he would embrace Vishwarup. So that also means that probably the deity worship and Gita discussion was going on all the time. It was going on all the time. The deities worshipped, the discussion all the time. And when Vishwarup would arrive, Advaita Acharya would stop worshipping the deity. So, Sachimata in Jogapit, she would cook every day. And when the offering was ready, offered, prasadam, Sachimata would send Nimai here to Advaita Bhavan to bring Vishwarup back for lunch. And that sight, when the devotees will be sitting, hearing from Advaita Acharya, Nimai would come, he'd be pulling on the dhoti of Vishwarup, pulling on his dhoti, saying that Mother is calling for lunch. When all the Vaishnavas would see that, then they became completely enamored, they become enchanted by the form of Nimai. They were unable to speak about Krishna. They become speechless. Deki she mohanrup saro bhaktagon shtagito hoy shobai kore niragon shtagito. Became like frozen. Samadhi pray hoye che bhaktagone Krishna kotan karuna aishe bodhane samadhi pray. Almost they were in samadhi. They attained samadhi just by seeing Goshandor. He's there, he's pulling on the dhoti of Vishwarup, come for lunch. Seeing that, the Vaishnavas are in samadhi. Krishna kota karuna aishe bodhane. No one could speak about Krishna even, they're just completely enamored. Mone chintai Advaita Mahashai Prakrita Manushta e Baloknai. And thinking, Advaita Acharya, he's seeing this, that all the devotees are bewildered by this form of Nimai. He's thinking that this boy is not material. He's not a material. He's not human. He's some supernatural being. Advaita Acharya, we saw the deity tonight, he's sitting down, he's praying to Lord Gauranga to appear. And Lord Gauranga appears here, Jogapit, Advaita Thakur has his house here. He doesn't know that Nimai is Bhagavan. He doesn't know that Nimai is Bhagavan. Even though he prayed, and he's Mahavishnu. He knows everything. But in a lila, if they're thinking that he's Krishna, then there's no lila. He plays. Adikonde, Amrit Shravan, Jai, what is that? Adikonde Kota, Jai Amrit Shravan, Adikonda Kota, Jai Amrit Shravan, Jai Shishu Rupe Krida Kore Narayan, Shishu Rupe. He plays like a child. It's not that the devotees are saying, oh, here comes Nimai. Well, he's God, Jai Nimai. They're not. How can he play like a child? How can he play like a child? Right? They don't think he's God. And that lila is called Nitya Lila. And actually, Mahaprabhu is present always in 4 places, it's said. Where Nityananda Prabhu dances, and where Sachimata cooks, and Raghava Bhavan in Panihati, and Srivas Angan. Mahaprabhu is always present here. So the Nitya Lila. There's Nitya Lila. It's going on, this Lila. So Advaita Acharya is thinking, this boy, he's not material. Moni chintai Advaita Mahashaya. Moni chintai. He's like pondering. Maybe this boy. So in this way, the devotees would interact with Nimai without knowing that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Grihe, so Vishwarup, Grihe oilo, Griha Byabaha na kore. Even at home, he wouldn't do housework, Griha Byabaha. He wouldn't engage in the usual activities of house, like, what time's dinner and that sort of stuff. He just, no household activity. griha byabaha na kori nirabari take Vishnu griher bitore. Always he would stay in the deity room when he was at home. Bibaher ujjog kuraye pita mata shune Vishwarup boro mone pai beta. This is actual brahmachari. If you're wondering, should I be brahmachari or should I be householder? You're wondering. So Vishwarup is bibaher ujjog kuraye pita mata. Pita mata, mother and father, bibaher ujjog, were beginning to consider the marriage of Vishwarup. Because he's 16, 17 years old. Vishwarup is about 9 years old. 9 years older than Nimai. So Nimai here, he's what, 3, 4 years old. So Vishwarup's 13, 14. No, so 16, 17. 16, 17. Yes? 13, 14. Anyway, 15. 15. They're thinking about his marriage. So they live in a cottage here, Jogpit. You saw the cottage. So the walls, they're this thin, made of grass. This dry grass, thin walls. So in the house, anything anyone says, everybody hears. So Pita Mata, Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata, they're beginning to discuss the wedding, to arrange a wedding for Vishwarup. So hearing this through the walls in the cottage, Shuni, Vishwarup Boramoni Pai Beta. Beta means pain. 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 Boro in the heart. Pain. He felt pain in the heart. So if the this is bhajan life. Bhajan. There's two sannyasis. There's two sannyasis. Bhajan. Life of Harir Bhajan. And people come here. When they preach, people come here. And Tirtha, Ketra Sannyas. So when he heard that, when Vishwarup heard that they were considering the idea of marriage, it gave pain in his heart. It gave pain in his heart, pain. So if you have that, if you're not married and the thought of marriage, contemplating marriage, if it causes pain in your heart, then there's this possibility you could become brahmachari life for whole life. You could be such a fortunate soul. If you don't feel that pain, then maybe you have to think twice. And so he left. He left, that was it. He left. He's 15 years old. He left home, never to come back again. Just with the slight possibility that there would be discussion of marriage, he left and never said anything to anyone, and was never heard of again. That's detached. Detachment. Now, Vishwarup Sannyas Dekhiya Bhaktagon Advait Adi Shabe Bahu Karela Krandon. Vishwarup Sannyas Dekhiya, Bhaktagam, the devotees, every day he would come here. And when he's sannyas, he didn't say to anybody, not like in ISKCON, you've got 5 years, they know, 4 years, 3, still on the list, and it's like everybody knows. No, he's just gone. And sannyas means he goes, that's it. No, they don't hear of him. So Advaita Adi, beginning with Advaita Acharya, Shabai, Bahu Korila Krandan, everyone was crying. The materialists also cry, but it's different. The Vaishnava's crying is different. It's not because of like sense gratification, like a parents would cry. The Vaishnava's crying, it's spiritual. Like that they were crying. Sometimes we might cry on the special holy days, appearance day, disappearance day of great acharyas, because of the assembly of Pranaya Bhagada, under influence of their association, we may feel such sentiment. But then after the festival, next day, we're not crying anymore. Don't cry anymore. But we're meant to be like that crying all the time. Mahaprabhu. Now, not just the devotees, but Uttam Madham Jai Shunila Nadiya Hene Nahi Jai Shunya Dukkha Nahi Bai. That everyone in Navadvip, Uttam Madhyam Jai Shunila Nodiyai. Uttam Madhyam Jai Shunile Nodiyai Henu Nahi Jai Shuniya Dukkha Nahi Bai. There was no one, having heard about it, that didn't feel pain. There was no one, having heard about Vishrup Sannyas, that didn't feel pain. Jagannath Shachir Bidan Hoy Buk, the pain that Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata felt in their hearts. Niranto Dake Bisharup, 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 like mad people wandering around. Bisharup, Bisharup, for days. Now the people, the local people, the neighborhood, they saw this, that Jagannath Mishra was so bereaved, and they tried to counsel him. Shtirahao Mishra Dukkha na Babeho Mone Sharba Goshti Udari Lo She Mahajane. Why you're feeling unhappy? Actually, Sarva Goshti Udari Lo She Mahajane. This great soul has delivered your entire dynasty. This great soul has delivered your entire dynasty. Goshti Purush Cha Koraye Shanash Tri Koti Kuler Hoy Sri Vaikuntha Bash. You got that one? You got it. Goshti Te Purush Jar Koraye Shanyas. In the family, in the dynasty, if one person takes sannyas, Tri Koti Kuler Hoy Sri Vaikuntha Bash, Tri Koti Kul. That means innumerable. Tri Koti means 3 crores. Go to Vaikuntha. 3 crore of ancestors go to Vaikuntha if you take sannyas. So Vishwarup sannyas ki. Amongst this exalted Vaishnav Shobha also are potential sannyasis. We pray, these great souls, they're on the path, already close. Not much difference between brahmachari and sannyasi. We pray that they can achieve that and deliver 3 crores of your ancestors to Vaikuntha. To Vaikuntha. Now, if you can't quite make the sannyas thing, then at least have a son and make him Krishna conscious. Right? That will. You can, if you make your son, even you're not Krishna conscious, you make like Sitaram Prabhu, and 4 sons. Right? He has a. Because he's made 4 sons who are Vaishnavas. So that's the parents. If you become he has like you could say this, 4 good chance. He has four men in the race. If any of them stay a Vaishnava, That's enough. Right? So he has a very high probability of going back to Godhead. So you can worship his lotus feet. It will be advantageous. Yeah. So you take your choice. Either you go Sitaram Prabhu line or you go Chaitanya Avatar line. But anyway, it doesn't have to be so strict. In ISKCON you can play it a little in between also. I kind of play it a little in between. So anyway, this is what they said. This is what the Navadip Basi said to Jagannath Mishra. He was still pained. He's still pained. And then eventually, Ei Rupe Jnana Joge Mishra Mahadhir Jai Shunaye Vishwarup Prabhu Rishannash Krishna Bhakti Hoy Tar Chinde Karma Panch. Anyone who hears about this Vishwarup Sannyas, Krishna Bhakti Hoy, they get devotion to Krishna. And Karma Pash, their entanglement in this world is destroyed. What's the plan tomorrow? What's your schedule tomorrow? Morning. TOV visit afternoon. So, shall we carry on with this in the morning? Rajapur? Yeah? Last night, you can go and offer the candles, offer lamp, that finishes at 8 o'clock. Now is 7. So, I'll go for another 10, 15 minutes, and then tomorrow different. I'll summarize. And when I heard that Hari Bol, I became surcharged. I'll summarize. So, now, Nimai, he became really attentive to Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata because they were in so much pain. So he was with them all the time, giving them emotional support. And he also became very attentive to his study. He was like the ideal child, right? Because he was doing that to give them some solace from the pain of Vishwarup. Now, Dekhiya Apurva Buddhi Shabai Prashangshe Shabai Baledanna Pita Mata Henobangshe. Seeing Nimai, who was so studious, Apurva Buddhi, his intelligence, his learning, was so brilliant that all of the village people were all glorifying him to the parents. Your son is so intelligent, he's so smart, he's so good at school. And so everybody was glorifying, and he began to become in great anxiety. Can anyone guess why? Anyone suggest why? The learned scholars here. So he says, from this day on, you're not studying. I forbid you to study.